I'm gonna need a drink for this one.
Be more than human.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is J.R. Carroll. I am the author of the More Than Human novels. And today I am here to talk about the worst book I've ever read. Now, I normally don't do, if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know I don't really do kind of rant reviews, or I don't even have that many negative reviews on my channel because I'm fairly good at picking books that I know I'm going to at least somewhat enjoy. But this is a book that I wanted to read, and I'm going to be honest with you, I wanted to read it because it had a cool cover, but even moreover, the book that was supposed to come out April 30th, so today, was its sequel. And I was going to read this book and then be one of the first people to read and review the second book if I had liked the first book. Now, that's normally how I do it. If it's a book 2 coming out, I'm like, oh, I'll read the first book and then we'll get to the second book. And, and I did this on audio, and I was only 27 minutes and some odd seconds into the book, and I had to stop.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
It has all the things that make me hate a fantasy book. We'll put it that way. And I was like, nope. But again, I am a glutton for punishment. So I said, I'm going to continue. And it really took me three collective tries. So I put it down the first time, I started reading again, put it down again, and then, normally I'm one straight through, unless something weird breaks up, I tend to just go right through books when I start them. And it just, and you know what? She's not a bad writer. Her skill is not bad. But the one thing I hate in fantasy books, sci-fi books, is modern day politics. And this book is littered with it.
Fuck.
And as I'm kind of going through this book, we follow our main character, and she's in this oppressive pseudo Chinese, futuristic Chinese community. Now, at the very beginning of the book, and this is another thing that I knew something bad was coming down the pike, when at the very beginning of the book, it basically preaches at the reader, it says, there's something to the effect of, if you were looking for historically accurate things, go read nonfiction. Because apparently some of this is based off of, real characters, and then she apparently, I would guess, just changes everything about them, or changes most things about the character. Otherwise, why would you kind of include if you're looking for historically accurate things? So she's in this kind of, it's a very patriarchal society, and you had these kaiju creatures that are coming to try and destroy our cities, and we have these types of mechs that it has to be 2 people, and normally it's a man and a woman, and they go in, and the men are almost always more powerful, and it's like they suck the chi out of the woman to power themselves and the suit, and then they go, but many times the women die, and that's the whole kind of theme of the book, is at every turn, men are bad.
That's just lazy writing.
Uh, and it's so crazy. I got about halfway through the book, and then I said to myself, "Man, there's not a lot of there's no really no graphic things in the book. I mean, a little bit of violence, but there's sexual stuff in the book, but there's nothing really graphic about it." But then I was like, "Well, I'm glad this. I wonder." This would be really bad if this was YA. And then I totally forgot. I blanked out. And it is a YA book. And I'm like, these are horrible ideas to have a young, impressionable person, listening to, because they're making and also a lot of the stuff you've seen coming, I've seen so much of the stuff coming, and that should have tipped me off that it's kind of more YA, but it, I got invested a little bit. Every time I started getting invested, I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. This is kind of cool. This is kind of cool. And then it would just come back, and it would be something very political, and I'm just like, you didn't have to add that line. Like, I think, now the question is, did she do this on purpose to rile up a lot of people to get more publicity for the book? Maybe so. But and had she done what I would wanted her to do, is just cut all that out and tell the good story that you had, maybe it wouldn't have been as big. So, yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit of spoilers here. So if you don't want to, if you don't want to get into the spoilers, so now, as she goes, her whole thing was she was from this country town, and her parents, like, these parents kind of sell off their their daughters, and to go become concubines for these warriors who run these mech suits. And her sister was killed, and her whole thing is like, she has this super feminist outlook on life, but nobody else in the entire, like, you don't see anybody around her who she's ever been around would have been able to put that in her head. It's like, we are the products of what we're around and all that, and there was none of that. So I don't know how she has these thoughts unless they're like implanted from a higher being. So that didn't make any sense to me. But she goes on. Eventually, she kills the guy who killed her sister, but not in the way that you thought. And then she runs into another guy, and he's the worst guy in the world, but she kind of likes him. That's the kind of the YA romancy thing going on. And then, I could just the beats, right? All the political things that kept getting brought up, through all of this. I kind of knew. I was about 70% of the way through, and I was like, please don't be this. Please don't be this. And so they're fighting, like, these kaiju-like creatures, and you're learning a little bit about the kaiju creatures and a little bit about the history of what's happening, and it's like been like over 200 years. This war kind of is going on. They kind of built that Attack on Titan type walls around their structures and stuff, and I was like, please don't be this. And of course, you get right to the end of the book, and it turns out, well, we're just the bad guys all along.
And also,
A quarter to
we stumbled, like, we came into this world, and the kaijus are the good people. And I'm like, of course they are. Of course they are. Like, so much, like, I mean, the idea, like, she's not a bad writer. Her skill is good, but everything was once you get a little bit into the book, you can see everything that's coming, because she pretty much kind of lays out her modern day politics thoughts, and then you could just see exactly what was coming down the pike. So if I couldn't help myself, I'm a glutton for punishment, so I just hate read the whole thing. Have you ever hate read a book? If so, throw it down in the comments. Is this a book that was on your radar? Have you read this book? Am I wrong? And, did you think it was a fantastic book? If so, I want to hear that too. If you got this far, hey, make sure you like, subscribe, check out my Patreon, check out some of my books that have no modern day politics in them, and be more than human.